So we were delighted to co-host the Roundtable event again with IHS this year. And I'm now talking with Lisa Arrowsmith, Associate Director of Connectivity. Lisa, for our audience, just tell us a little bit more about who is IHS?
Thanks, Vince. So IHS is a leading information provider covering a really broad range of different sectors, anything from oil and gas, financial services through to technology. It represents over 8,000 colleagues across 140 different offices worldwide, so a major scale operation. I work within IHS Technology, so IHS Technology is actually the culmination of 4 different previous research companies: IMS Research, Screen Digest, Display Bank and iSupply, all working together to enable clients to make the key strategic decisions that really matter. Within IHS Technology, we have more than 350 colleagues covering everything across the technology value chain, right the way from components and semiconductors, all the way through to end devices, subscribers, and really helping our clients to make the decisions that really matter.
So you and your colleagues do the analysis and create the reports that an awful lot of companies use to make their important decisions, I guess.
That's correct. So it's not just reports. We also offer a range of market intelligence services, online databases, market trackers, etc. So for example, in the low power wireless area, we have a quarterly market tracker which tracks the adoption of 15 different key low power wireless technologies in 10 application areas. And we actually have really aggressive growth plans and expansion plans for that service in 2014. I think one of the things that we're really seeing is as connectivity becomes all the way more pervasive across so many different application areas, we're aiming to really echo that in our services. So planning to add a lot more application-specific detail into that service for 2014. And it's not just the low power wireless technologies that we track by any means. So for example, we also have our connected devices database that tracks Bluetooth, a variety of different 802.11 protocols and many more technologies across more than 30 different application areas. So that's everything from automotive head units right the way through to TVs. And in addition to that, we're really seeking to be at the forefront of new developments and new application areas. And we want to be that company that when these things start to become on our clients' radars, we can really provide that independent market view of what's happening in that industry, what the developments are going to mean for that company. So that includes tracking new technologies such as white space radio, all the way through to just having really in-depth application-specific reports. So for example, looking at connectivity in, say, lighting, healthcare, asset tracking, and all of the emerging application areas as well that we see connectivity going into.
Okay, Lisa, and what are some of the key takeaways of your wireless research?
Well, we're actually just finalising some of the full year 2013 data for a number of our services. So for example, on the low power wireless tracker side of the market, one of the things that we really see as being the key takeaway for 2013 is really the rate at which Bluetooth Smart adoption has grown. The numbers that we're looking at is for 2013, over 40 million ICs shipped that year. And that's pretty sizable growth if we think that it was under 10 million in 2012. And that growth has come from a number of places. I mean, mainly sports and fitness has been a key driver of adoption of Bluetooth Smart in these relatively early years. But equally, for the future, we see a number of different growth areas. So for example, on the consumer electronics side, the integration of Bluetooth Smart into, say, remote controls to enable advanced functionality, right the way through to a number of relatively niche applications as a number of different OEMs and even just app developers start to look to take advantage of the native Bluetooth Smart support in a range of different operating systems.
Companies such as IHS are bound and make a living out of looking into the future. Has this success of Bluetooth Low Energy taken even yourselves by surprise?
I think it has a little bit, to be honest with you. I think it's one of those technologies where there was a lot of hype a number of years ago, and it goes through that typical cycle where there was some delays to the specification and early adoption didn't quite happen as quickly as some of us had thought it had, which led to some, I think, caution, a bit more of a cautious approach to the way that we view the market. But I think really now we're seeing quite a clear growth trajectory for the technology in the coming years. And it's an interesting one to track because it's not just the standard devices which are typically non-connected, which are taking up connectivity, although that is happening in things like sports and fitness. But it's also a technology that's going to act as a game changer across a number of different areas. Sometimes quite obscure applications, but just as people want to drive that connectivity to, say, a smartphone or a tablet, Bluetooth Smart is very well placed to take advantage of that. And I think in the coming years we'll see, a very, very wide number of relatively small adoption of Bluetooth Smart across these diverse applications. But looking, say, 2 or 3 years, some of those endeavours will start to really gain volume and really, represent major growth for the technology.
Is Bluetooth Smart's lead unassailable, or could you see something coming to challenge Bluetooth Smart?
I think it, to some extent, needs to be considered on an application by application basis. I mean, one of the key strengths of Bluetooth Smart is the native support in smartphones. So from that perspective, the main challenging technology might be something like Wi-Fi. So we see a lot of interest in the use of very low power Wi-Fi implementations try to enable these types of applications to actually just use Wi-Fi, that inherent IP addressability and support, and that native support in a wider range of devices is attractive. But today I think that we see only relatively small companies really pushing that market. I think if we see some of the bigger name companies moving into that market more heavily, then that's a technology that could potentially challenge Bluetooth Smart. However, having said that, I think we'll find that Bluetooth Smart has got a number of very, very strong supporters, and we've seen that at the rate at which a number of companies have switched from using, say, proprietary technology to using Bluetooth Smart, and I think that strong industry support is by no means going to go away.
Well, inevitably, Lisa, Bluetooth Smart is looking at the Internet of Things market, and everything we hear says that this sector is going to be absolutely massive. What's IHS take on this?
Well, I think 2013 has certainly been a year where there's been a lot of debate about the Internet of Things. And according to IHS projections in the area, at the end of 2013, there was over 20 billion internet-connected devices installed, and of those, 60% used a wireless technology. I think that debate's not going to go away, and it's clearly a major growth area. And by the end of 2025, we see more than 90 billion internet-connected devices installed, and the rate of wireless adoption still continues to grow, with over 72% of those using a wireless technology. So I think the whole IoT debate is certainly one that's going to continue into the future, and clearly it represents a major opportunity for companies right the way across the connectivity value chain.
Okay, well, I imagine we'll both be tracking that sector very closely, and perhaps in 12 months' time we'll review where things actually reach by that stage.
Definitely.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Vince.